It is 2023. Happy New Year to you and yours. We welcome you back to the HoopSeen's.com podcast series, and we got so much on the table for this season coming up. We cannot wait. And as we get ready for this year coming up, it's only right that we look back on the holiday season. And Josh Tech, it's good to have you back on the podcast, my friend.
Man, it's great to be back. I feel like we haven't done one of these in forever, but we've both been so busy with holiday stuff. I've been on the road, you've been on the road, traveling to different events across the country. So it's been hectic, but it's been fun. It's been great. I'm glad we're back here. Really quick before we get into basketball, do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, just podcasts. I literally do. I want to podcast like 3 to 5 times a week is literally one of my things that I have on my list, man. So this
Cool.
will get us a good start, I think, going forward. So what about you?
Yeah, I mean, same. Just could keep working hard. Like some of my best moments of 2022 were being on the road, traveling for work. So I'm going to keep doing that. Hit the road as hard as I've ever hit it. And then just like non-basketball related goals, just read some more books and stuff like that. Just small little goals that everybody makes for themselves.
I love it. I love it. I know I'm old now where I'm just like audiobook guy because these eyes are shutting down. I can't read books quite like I used to. So enjoy your youth, my friend, while you still got 'em.
I'll work on it.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's talk about the City of Palms, 2022 City of Palms. It is an annual event that we are at all the time, and really one of the premier events on the high school calendar each and every year. And our friend Donnie Wilkie obsesses year round about the City of Palms in a good way, and builds out really one of the best events on the calendar because of the intensity, because of the bracket style, because of the different matchups that are sewn into the calendar. And you had a chance to get down there to Fort Myers, Josh Tech, for the first time and experience that. As a first timer, what was the experience like for you?
It lived up to all the expectations, that had been built up just because like I followed it along from afar. I've watched it from afar on streaming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just has this air of being one of the most, prestigious high school events on the calendar. And when you got down there and kind of got to see the action start to unfold, it really played out like that. It really felt like, okay, I'm watching something maybe a little bit different than what I'm normally used to watching.
Yeah, I think it was great for the city of Fort Myers, the community of Fort Myers. Obviously, with the hurricane they had, I know that area needed some good news, and this is something that annually the community gets behind, supports, and really does a good job. And it seems like this year's field gave the people, as the tournament bracket got deeper and deeper, closer to the championship, I feel like the games became a little bit more intense, and you had a chance to be there in person, also watch it, a lot of it online as well as you got back home. Since it's such a long event.
Yeah.
Let's walk it back real quick. Let's ask two questions. Who won it as a team, number one, and who won it, would you say, individually speaking, from that event as well?
Yeah, both of these answers come from the same team. Emotep Charter won the main bracket. There are a
Yeah.
couple other different kinds of brackets, but the main one that everybody is keyed in on is like that main bracket. And Emotep Charter beat Columbus from Miami down in that main bracket championship game. And the guy who really stole the show for the entire weekend, not just in that championship game, not just in the semifinal game, was Ramir Barno from Emotep Charter. He's a Florida Gulf Coast commit. So he was
Yeah.
right there in his future backyard in Fort Myers. And he was fantastic from the first game to the last game. He was a guy that opposing coaches, when I was talking to them throughout the weekend, would be like, that's the guy we're most afraid of.
Yeah.
Emotep Charter has Justin Edwards, who's committed to Kentucky 2023. They have Ahmad Knoll, 2024, really high level, top 50-ish kind of prospect. But it was Ramir Barno who kind of struck fear into their hearts, right? So that's the first instance of me being like, okay, this guy might be the real deal. And then he just proved it throughout the entire weekend that he was, their best player, and he led them to that championship.
Pretty cool. I mean, it's interesting, like, to look at these, like, I don't know if I want to call them coincidental, but yeah, I mean, you've got all this star power. City of Palms is literally like you can see half the McDonald's All-American team with the City of Palms every year.
No,
And
seriously,
Florida
it's
Gulf
Fort
Coast.
Myers magic.
Yeah, it's magic. It's magic. It's kind of like New Year's Eve magic for the Georgia Bulldogs, man. Pretty awesome.
Dude, honestly, how crazy. Okay, not to get off on a tangent, but that was one of the craziest experiences of all time. I was sitting there watching that, and I was like, hanging out with my dog, and I was like, oh, wait, it's about to be midnight. Oh, wait, Georgia just won the game. Like, as the ball was dropping, Georgia just won that game. It was pretty surreal. What a great
I don't know if Disney could write something up better than that. It's pretty awesome.
Seriously.
I mean, Barno kind of had the same thing. Like you said, I mean, he's in his featured backyard, and he's got people that are close to the program. And to me, it goes back to what I've always said, is that we can't discount the guys that get better as seniors in high school. And sometimes I wonder too, are the highest level players, are they bored by the time they get to this part of their scholastic and high school career because they've played so much on the travel circuit at different camps, and the high school teams play national schedule and they're all over the place, and do they become a little complacent? Some of those guys, but then you've got a guy like Barno who's going to Florida Gulf Coast, who probably isn't inside anybody's top 150, at least at the moment, or prior to the City of Palms. And are these the type of guys that we've got to pay really close attention to as they move towards college? With Barno, like, what is it? I mean, I've always asked this question, and I love this question. I've asked this to guys over the course of time: Mustafa Shakur and Kyle Lowry and Sean Singletary and all these guys from Philadelphia over the years. And like, what is it about a Philadelphia guard that is different than other guys? And by that, do you understand that question? Does Barno have the type of game that justifies such a question? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And yeah, he does he does have that Northeast kind of vibe, that Philly kind of vibe that we're used to. He's really a tough guy, like, right? And that's kind of what I associate with that area, is toughness. And he was,
Sure.
he played with that level of, once again, toughness. That kind of, he had a different edge about him, right? He was quick guard. He was able to kind of get into the teeth of defenses. He really took the contact well. He just kind of did all those gritty kind of winning plays, right? He kind of had that, like, that guy that could put a team on his back and carry them to an NCAA tournament kind of win kind of vibe, right?
I love it. Dunk City, baby. Maybe Guard City moving forward. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Hey, a side note, did you go out to the world famous concession stand tent at the City of Palms?
No, I didn't. Actually, well, I did just to kind of get a good look at it, but I didn't get a chance to.
Have I not taught you well?
Oh, you've been teaching me, but I don't know if you've been teaching me to go eat at the concession stand out there. But I know you told me, you've told me legends about it. But I did go out there and check it out. But
all right, next year,
being down in Florida and right across the street from a Publix, I had to go get world famous pub subs throughout the weekend.
Fair. I mean, trust me, I miss the pub sub. That's probably one thing I miss the most about being back in the Southeast, no doubt about it. But as usual, we digress talking about food, which I support fully. One thing with the City of Palms that I love, it is a platform. It's a place where I think a lot of guys kind of launch it, you know what I mean, and put their names into the national category because of the matchups and because of the spotlight, because of the number of eyeballs that are down there. And it really is a place where you can see guys. I mean, that was the first time I saw Shaden Sharp. And I remember sitting with my friend Eric Bossy, and we were like, who's this guy? He was with Link Academy. I think he was with Link. And he played like 8 minutes a game. You're like, who's that guy? Yeah. Like, who is that? And like, those are the types of opportunities that you get to see at the City of Palms, where a guy can kind of raise his profile. Were there any players that kind of did that for you, that said, hey, you know what, this is somebody that we've got to rank moving forward from this platform?
Yeah, I thought that's pretty funny that you kind of had that story, because I pretty much have the same story with Garrett Sundra from Paul VI. He kind of had that, like, when they were warming up, we were kind of going through our notes, being like, okay, there's player X, player Y, and then you kind of look up, you're like, who's that guy? 6'10 guy, really mobile, really long, all that stuff. And then when the game started going, I mean, so the game that I saw, PVI, they blew that game out. So their starters didn't really get as much run. They didn't get to really, produce as much as they normally would have.
Sure.
In those minutes, Garrett Sundra was awesome. He, led the team with 12 points or so. Really effective runner, like floor runner, really great around the basket, can step out, shoot the three. Kind of has a lot of modern day big man qualities, right? And I talked to him after the game. He let me know that he was getting recruited by Virginia Tech, Butler, Iowa. And I was like, oh, okay. Maryland being another one right in their backyard. I was like, oh, okay. So, you're not like a super sleeper, but he is, one of the guys that emerged as like hey, we should probably rank this in the back end, or a top one.
That's a level up. Yeah. Yeah. And those are like you said, you're taking mental notes of different guys. We're just a junior in 2024. Where we know with Paul VI, like every year they're about a starting five that's going to go on and play college and be really good. But waiting in the wings are always players that are this good. And so Garrett Sundra is certainly a guy, as we get ready to update our rankings nationally for the class of 2024, as a player that is on our short list of somebody that we need to include. Was there anybody else that kind of fit this category for you, JT?
Yeah, he's already a guy that we kind of have high thoughts of already. Like, we already kind of value him as a player a lot. But Bishop Oswald from Myers Park, I thought he did even more to, like, improve himself in my eyes. Like
Yeah.
I already thought highly of him. Now I think even more highly of him. And a lot of it was because of defense. And his kind of highlight performance of the weekend for me was when he was matched up with Reed Shepard, who's a phenomenal player. And Boswell really frustrated him and really relegated Shepard into being an inefficient player, right? Shepard had 10 turnovers in that matchup against
Wow.
Boswell. He was really inefficient from the field, and Boswell, just his defense really was the key reason because of that. He was also a really good passer, really good rebounder, really good scorer overall. So he had a really complete couple of games that I got to see him in.
Yeah, that Myers Park team is no joke, man. They've got some dudes on that team.
Oh yeah.
I love Bishop Boswell. I'm with you, man. I thought he was, to me, probably one of my 3 favorite guys last year at the Bob Gibbons Tournament Champions. I thought he was outstanding. I'll put you on the spot a little bit. I know that you said he's already in our rankings as we get ready to kind of think through this. Like, how high can he climb for you? Like, what's his jump up look like?
Well, I think, with our 2024 rankings, I think we have him at 64, 65 right now. And, behind the curtains peak, we're getting ready to update those. And I think it could be a top, let's be generous. Like we could probably bump up to around 40 or, into 30s or so. And like, it wouldn't be that big of a, nobody would bat an eye at it rather.
Yeah.
I think he exists in that range to me.
I like it. I think his film's been phenomenal too. I've had a chance to watch a number of their games already this year. I'm with you there. Yeah, we had him probably too low, honestly. And I'm with you. I think he's a justifiable raiser in this class, and a guy that I think continues to get better and better and better because of what you said, that defensive ability. I didn't really have 10 turnovers. 10?
Yeah. And here's the thing. Reed Shepard was phenomenal in their first game. So it's not like he was just kind of going against a guy, nobody. Reed Shepard was like had one of the best performances of the weekend in their first game. But then when they got matched up with Bishop Boswell, it just kind of went downhill. I mean, that's all because of Bishop Boswell.
A lot of Kentucky guys this year at the City of Palms, sounds like.
Oh yeah, and Big Blue Nation was in the building. Don't Blue gets in. Don't get that mixed up. They were there, and it was hard to not notice with all the Kentucky guys. And then you look around and be like, oh, there's a lot of blue around here.
You could have a tournament, I think, in Antarctica, and Big Blue Nation would come deep, man. They would. They support it.
Absolutely.
One thing too, we've talked about guys that rise up and guys that emerge, but is there like a real deep cut guy that you really like as we kind of continue this conversation?
Yeah. He's not much of like a super deep cut, but he's a younger guy. He's a 2025 guy. And that was Tyler Jackson out of St. Francis. You already brought them up, Link Academy. Link Academy is freaking loaded. Like, so if you do anything productive against Link Academy, that really, raises that kind of performance, right? So if you, in that game that St. Francis played against Link Academy, Tyler Jackson dropped 25 points, and he was, arguably the best player on the floor, and he really gave Link Academy a scare. So that performance against that team on this stage really showed me that he is a player that we need to keep an eye on moving forward because he was fantastic.
2025 guard, like you said, from St. Francis. So certainly a guy that we're going to move in there. So as you mentioned, a 2025 guy, let's talk about some of those underclassmen. That's one thing I love that Donnie Wilkie does such a good job. He always thinks about 2 or 3 years in totality for that event, where it's not just like come in, play 1 year and you're out. He always thinks about that and tries to bring in some really good young guys. We talked about the Boozers. Obviously, they got to the championship game. I don't know if there's a hotter group of sophomores. And we've talked about Cameron ad nauseum here as our number 1 guy. I'd argue a generational guy, one of the probably 10 maybe best guys I've ever watched at the high school level. But his twin brother, Caden, continues to tear it up. How much did he impress you down there in Fort Myers?
I think Caden's underrated. Like, he is a phenomenal passer, really good on-ball defender, really great creative scorer at the rim. You can't stop him from when he gets into the paint. You can't really stop him from scoring. You just kind of figure out ways to do so. And he's just a guy that, because of Cam, gets a little overshadowed, but I think he's phenomenal. I think he's underrated in the class. I think he deserves to go from like the 20 range up to closer to the 10 range because he's just been delivering. And I've seen Columbus a lot over the past couple of weeks, and he's just always delivered.
Yeah, I think you're their sports information director, actually, the more I think about it.
It's Wheeler and Columbus. I'm their beat writers at this point.
I love it. Hey, that's not a bad beat, man.
No, not at all. I've been pretty pleased.
It's not a bad beat at all. One team that I've loved watching over the course of the years is Archbishop Stepanak out of New York. RJ Davis and AJ Griffin, those guys have come through that program. I love how they operate. I love their culture. I love their coaching. I think they're terrific. they've got some guys on that team that we're aware of, but their younger guys also stepped up. And I feel like this was a big weekend for Danny Carbuccia. I hope I said your name right, Danny, by the way.
Yeah, Danny was phenomenal. And I think that backcourt of Danny Carbuccia and Boogie Fland are like fantastic. They're one of the best backcourts in the country. I'll go ahead and say that. I think Archbishop Stepanak is kind of guard university. They always seem to produce really good guards. And Carbuccia was phenomenal. I think he does a really good job at understanding when to be a distributor and then when to be a scorer. In the first half of their first game, he kind of was the guy to get into the paint, kick the ball out, get the ball moving, get his guys assists, get open looks. He was really being a really great distributor, right? And that kind of set the tone for that, the rest of their backcourt to hit shots, make shots, and then in the second half, Danny really asserted himself as a scorer. He's a really good defender. He's a really tough kid. I think he's a guy in that 2025 class that's going to emerge as one of the best point guards in that group.
I love it. I love it. We talked about Myers Park earlier with Bishop Boswell. There's somebody else on that roster, particularly a younger guy that you really like too.
Yeah, Sadiq White is another guy in the 2025 class that I think we're gonna eventually see more rises out of him. I don't remember where he's at in our current 2025 rankings, but it's probably too low, to be honest, wherever he is.
Because we have a lot of work to do, man. We have a lot of work to do.
Hey, that's what rankings updates are for, right?
I agree.
So he's going to be a guy that sees a bump up because he was fantastic in all of their games. Really effective rebounder, really uses his length and his athleticism around the rim really well. But he's also a skilled guy who can step out. He can kind of, play more of that modern big wing kind of role, right? And he's going to keep developing in that regard, keep getting better in the skill areas. But he's also a guy that's going to keep that athleticism and that length being active around the rim. So he's never going to lose sight of that. And I thought he did a really great job at, just kind of doing his part and being big and being athletic.
If you haven't already, make sure you go check out Josh Tech's coverage from the City of Palms. I'm sure you can just Google City of Palms HoopSeen or City of Palms Josh Tech, TEC, and go find his coverage as well. Make sure you also follow him on Twitter. Josh, what's your Twitter handle?
_ Josh Tech, _ JOSH TEC.
So make sure you go keep up with all the stuff that he does. Let me kind of put you on the spot a little bit. We've talked about some of the top performers and some of the top risers. Let's look back, big picture, like 5 best guys that you saw there off the top of your head.
5 best guys. So we'll go. I'll kind of maybe extend this out a little bit. There are a lot of players. I thought. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about guys that haven't already discussed. How about that?
Okay.
I thought Justin Edwards and Ahmad Noel from Emotep were both fantastic throughout the weekend. Reed Shepard was really good for North Laurel. Of course, Isaiah Collier was phenomenal for Wheeler.
Hold on, let me mark that. 17 minutes and 47 seconds in. That's how long it took for you to talk about Isaiah Collier. That is a new, it's like listening to the Bill Simmons podcast and how long it takes for him to talk about the Celtics or the Patriots. This is the equivalent in Josh Tech and Isaiah Collier. So I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
that's a New Year's resolution.
Well, that's not a New Year's resolution because we're still gonna be talking about him a lot. He's a really damn good player.
He is. I love that. I love that it took 17 minutes to get him in the conversation.
Well, and you really can't discuss some of these events without talking about Isaiah.
Totally fair. Fair.
Like I'm not the guy who's gonna be handing out participation trophies. Like if you're one of the best players, you're gonna get talked about. If people get kind of sick and get fatigue, it's funny. I was talking about there being maybe potential Cameron Boozer fatigue. It's like, What do you want me to do? Like, the guy's awesome.
Listen, man, what do you want me to do?
The guy's freaking awesome.
You get tired of talking about LeBron?
No, exactly.
No.
Right? Like,
no. Yeah. Totally right.
Deserving. Still had in the first game. His passing over the weekend was phenomenal. He was just really fantastic in that regard.
I love it. Anybody else? Well, I think we're right.
North Carolina commit Elliot Cadeau. He was phenomenal for Link Academy. I only got to see Link Academy once, so that's kind of why.
Yeah. I think we're having some technical difficulties with our guy Josh. I think we're struggling with the internets here. Which we've never had happen ever on any of our podcasts. So I think Josh is freezing up. But I think that's a perfect way to end it. I don't know if Josh, if you can hear me, if you're stuck in the internet black hole.
Yeah,
or not.
hey, it's technology.
It is. I think our guy Josh is done. The internet won't let him be great today. That's all right. That's all right. Well, for Josh Check, I'm Justin Young. We appreciate you watching the Shot Clock as we recap the 2022 City of Palms. Make sure you like and subscribe this video, and make sure you follow us on social media at HoopSeen. For all of us at HoopSeen.com, we can't wait to bring you more content here in 2023, and we'll see you on the next podcast right here on HoopSeen.com.